Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between Norsca, led by Wulfric the Wanderer, and the Dwarves, who are going to be led by Uncle Gromby. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So here in the front line, I do have 4 groups of Marauder champions with great weapons, and I definitely think they're going to be the ideal pick because pretty much everything on the Dwarven roster has at least like 80 armor. I think Slayers have like none. Let's actually go ahead and check. Yeah, they have no armor, but yeah, Norgrimling's Ironbreakers have 125. Even the Miners have like 80, so if you just have like standard Marauders, it's still going to take them some time to get through the Miners with Blasting Charges. On top of that, they do also have 80 armor themselves, which is going to make them a little bit more durable against Blasting Charge play. Because like the Miners with Blasting Charges, for example, if they're able to get like a single volley off on Marauders, it'll chunk them down to like, 60, 70% HP and is definitely very punishing. So I think having a little bit more of a durable, aggressive front line is going to be the way to go. So 4 groups of Marauder champions with great weapons. We also have 2 groups of standard Marauders. And the reason I bring them is if the Dwarves are going very heavy with like Quarrelers or Thunders or, have any sort of a missile line, I like to basically throw these guys in as sacrificial lambs. So you send them in first. They do have the shield, so they're going to take that firepower a little bit better than the Marauder champions. And of course, these guys are, kind of the main core of the strategy here. So you really want to protect them with everything you can. And worst case scenario, you get the Marauders and you use them to kind of skirmish in the back line because they do have 35 run speed. And the Dwarves have 26 on Longbeards, 28 on Dwarf Warriors, and 28 on Miners. So you can actually outmaneuver your opponent pretty effectively there. On top of that, we do have the Miststalkers, the Fimir RORs, and I think they're pretty good against Dwarves. They do have Armor Sundering, so they're going to make the Dwarven targets a little bit squishier for your forces, but they do magic damage, which is a little bit unfortunate, but, I still think they're worth bringing because even if you mitigate 25% of this damage, I still think they're going to hit like trucks, and you pretty much need everything you can to get through very heavy Dwarven infantry, and I like these guys quite a bit. And of course, they have stock, so they're not going to take much damage on their approach, although it looks like they're revealed now, and man, I feel like they got revealed really quickly. I always thought they got a little bit closer, but I guess not. In the secondary line, a couple groups of Marauder Hunters with the throwing axes, which are incredibly good against Dwarves. These guys are the masters of dragging down Ironbreakers and, Longbeards and things like that. And if they have like Gyrocopters, which actually have like 90 or 100 armor, I can't remember off the top of my head, the Marauder Hunters are going to do pretty well against them. So we have 2 of those. We also have 1 group of Javelins. And the reason I bring Javelins is number 1, to poke down Slayers. And number 2, if they do have Gyrocopters, they're going to be a pretty good tool to kind of at least be able to keep range with the Gyrocopters. For our leadership, we do have Wulfric the Wanderer, so we're going to call him SURTHA-Wulfric right now, or SURTHA-RIK. I think that kind of works, right? SURTHA-RIK, yeah, we'll take it. He's going to be on a chariot, armor-piercing chariot, anti-infantry, very good against the Dwarves. He's mobile, very, very tough to lock down, and as you guys know, chariots are the scourge of the Dwarves. We also have 1 group of Marauder Ice Wolf chariots, which are pretty good because they do have armor-piercing missiles and have a nice anti-infantry bonus themselves. You can see the flame cannon of my opponent getting into my Marauders, which is always fun. On top of that, my opponent has a couple of Miners with Blasting Charges in the front line. He has Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, so you guys probably saw my Onion video a few days ago. Very similar tactic here with a little bit less missile play, but I definitely like it because it's going to kind of force me to wash over multiple layers of units. So he does have Longbeards in the secondary line, Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, and you don't need a ton of armor piercing against Norsca. I suppose this is a pretty nice little line here, and of course they do have shields against skirmishing fire. In the back, he does have Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. It looks like he has 2 groups of those. In the far back here, he does have the Grumbling Guard, which are the RORs, and they do have that Vigor aura, but I remember they got nerfed recently, and I think people stopped bringing them, but they're still pretty good. He does also have the Ulthar's Raiders, which are going to be really menacing against my Chariots and Fimir if they're left unimpeded. Some Giant Slayers in the back. These guys are really good against Fimir Warriors and also pretty good at pinning down Chariots if they're able to catch them. So I got to be really careful here. So without further ado, let us get this show on the road. So on the far side, you can see my Ice Wolf Chariot. It's going to be riding through some of these Dwarves here and doing a little bit of damage. Nothing heavy duty. It doesn't actually take out any models. And Wulfric the Wanderer is also going to be kind of perusing on the outsides of the formation, looking for an opportunity, but there's plenty of troops without charge defense. Flame cannons are coming in, and it looks like they're going to be shooting at some of my Fimir Warriors, I think, or maybe it was just like super inaccurate. I think it was actually shooting at the Marauder Champions. So blasting charges coming in as my Marauder Champions come in. You can see they don't take much from the blasting charges, so they're going to be okay for the most part. So they get into those Miners and are going to start doing some relatively good damage. My other group of Marauders, however, and this is what I'm talking about, these guys just got wrecked by those blasting charges, just absolutely shreked, just taken down to like half health, a little bit below half health. But the Flame Cannons are actually going after the Fimir, and I wonder, I mean, it doesn't have the best AP, so it's not going to do a whole lot, and it looks like it might be switching on to something else. But in the meantime, you can see my Fimir Balefiends pushing through. I have some more champions, and I have regrouped my Chariots in the hills. And now you can see the Marauder Ice Wolf Chariots and the other troops are going to be coming back in, and Grumbrindle's just kind of looking for an opportunity to strike here. So the throwing axes are going to be throwing up and over, and they will be coming into these Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, as well as Norgrimling's Ironbreakers. And they do have the Shield Breaker, but man, my line got punished here. These Marauder champions are just getting wrecked by the Flame Cannons. I decided to pull my Fimir back and just get some throwing axe volleys because I was taking some business. In the back, you can see SURTHA-RIK is going to be pushing through. He does have his Ice Wolf contingent. just kind of running rampant in the back line, trying to do as much damage as I could. But Dwarves do have very good mass, so if you get pinned and you're not careful, you can take some serious losses on Chariot Plane. There you can also see that Seafang was going down. But now that I'm disengaged, just kind of using the throwing axes to wear down these guys, and the Famir actually did a ton of burst damage to those Nurglings Ironbreakers, which I'm quite happy with. Marauders here fighting against Longbeards, and there's also some champions kind of integrated into this line here, so it's going to be a very atrocious kind of bloody fight. In the back, though, I am pinned down, and you can see the Dwarf Warriors. I was trying to get through with my Chariots, but the Ice Wolf Chariots couldn't get away. And I think the Giant Slayers are coming in, so that was very scary. I was like, all right, so we're going to get Wulfric out of here, see if he can get an escape, and the Giant Slayers are obviously just going to massacre any Chariots that are left over. So yeah, very close fight now. Bounce Power is pretty much dead. Even here in the front, the Marauder champions with great weapons are able to push through and just basically crush down those Longbeards, which they're pretty much a hard counter to. The Dwarf Warriors with great weapons are fighting against Marauders, and it's a pretty even fight here in the front line. The Dwarven armor definitely paying some dividends. You can see the throwing axes from the Marauder Hunters are doing really, really good. And even though like they don't have the best line of sight, they seem to be getting pretty good value regardless. That damn Flame Cannon, though, is still doing so much work. But Wulfric comes in the front line. Grombrindle has just been chasing him all day. I have Famir Warriors. I have some great weapons that are kind of rallying here. And up in the hills, we had some good engagements. The champions were able to clean up the chaff units, and it looks like there are some Longbeards here, but we can basically just ignore them and start moving towards the main part of the battlefield. So right now, you can see the balance of power is still pretty even, 485 to about 530, and I tried to get I think it was a Pendulum or a Seafang here, but he was like lined up this way, and then he switched to attack my Famir Warrior, so it was a complete whiff, and I was like, damn it, man, that really sucks, but this is good. Marauder champions are fighting against Giant Slayers. Now, the Giant Slayers do have good AP, unlike regular Slayers, so they're actually, that's what's nice about them. They can actually fight against armor and do pretty well, and you can see a couple of my champs are actually taking a bit of a beating from these giant man children right here. Man, they're just like, they look like, they're like as big as my Marauders, which is pretty crazy. Like these guys are like just rugged Norskins. But in the back, you can see Wulfric the Wanderer has gotten onto these flame cannons right here. And Grombrindle has popped. Grombrindle has no fear. So I was wondering during the game, I was like, why is this flame cannon not breaking? You can see a really, really good Seafang going down right there and chewing up those Altharge Raiders. But I was really kind of bummed. I was like, damn, this flame cannon's not breaking. I have to go somewhere else. So Wulfric's going to go right through the formation on his chariot, and you can see he's cleaving some of those dwarves as he goes through. And now I do have the Marauder Hunters with javelins, which are going to be peppering into these Altharge Raiders, who are a very good target. They only have 40 armor, and Wulfric's kind of distracting them. They're taking javelin fire. You can see it's not going terribly well for these dwarves right here, as they are getting lanced here. In the front line, though, it's a bit more of a grindy fight. Grombrindle, the White Dwarf, is leading a resurgence of these Dwarf Warriors. It looks like we have Dwarf Warriors here, Warriors who Dragon Fire Pass, Nurglings Ironbreakers are all putting up a pretty good fight, so I've lost this kind of center pocket engagement. The Famir are having to retreat, my Marauders are in bad shape, but here comes a Pendulum, which is going to be going right down the Dwarven formation and just doing massive damage. So you can see the Dwarves that, were at about 20%. Are now down to like, less than 10%. They're taking quite a bit of work. And also these Altharge Raiders are being taken out by my Javelins up here on the hill. Wulfric's doing a good job providing support around the battlefield, using Fight or Die and just chasing off everything he can. But the bounce power is kind of creeping in my opponent's favor a little bit. The Marauder Hunters have had to push into melee. They're out of ammunition, so I was like, let's go in there and see if we can go fisticuffs and help out the Famir Balefiend, who will sunder the armor of these dwarves, hence making the Marauder Hunters better in melee. But yeah, it's a tough fight. These hunters here are still going to be throwing in with their axes, and normally, like, I have so much trouble killing the Nurglings Ironbreakers, but these damn Marauder Hunters with throwing axes have just been MVPs. So from here, I noticed that the dwarves are very disconjointed. There's a bunch of, like, dwarves kind of very beat up and rallying, so kind of turned it on to my secondary tactic here. I'm like, all right, Wulfric needs to ride around. He needs to just kind of finish off any remnants of the dwarf forces that are retreating to make sure they can't unify with Grombrindle. I kind of figured that if my opponent could get a Doom Stack and just push around, it would be really tough, and Wulfric would be, exponentially less effective here. So now he's just going to be pushing through here, and you can see he's just going to be running through these dwarves, kind of punching them as he cackles in the distance, then riding on to the second group. As far as kills, he has 79 kills, definitely doing good. Grombrindle only rocking 11. I think he spent a lot of this battle chasing my Lord, which is a little bit unfortunate for him. But I still have a ton of the regular Marauders, which, even Marauder Hunters and these type of units still have 26 melee attack, 28 weapon strength, so in numbers like this, they're going to be pretty good. And I still have 7 Miststalkers who could potentially sunder some armor, so we still have a little bit of something, a little something to fight with. Also, the Marauder Ice Wolf Chariot did come back from route, so you can see it's going to be rampaging through the Dwarven line, and it actually does break the Altharge Raiders there, which is going to be really, really nice, and a lot of the Dwarves are starting to buckle. The Flame Cannon crew is coming back. He does have a group of 13 Giant Slayers fighting with the Gremlin Guard here, who have 24 models. But he keeps trying to catch my chariots. But like I said, just against dwarves, this is especially important. You always want to be chasing down like routing units, making sure their reinforcements can't come back and help them. And from there, you should be in relatively decent shape. So Wulfric and the chariot are able to shatter those miners. And right now, we're going to be going after the Gremlin Guard. So you can see we actually get caught on our own Famir there, which is a little bit. Look at that is so troll. Oh man, but Wulfric gets in there. Still gets a pretty good charge against the Gremlin Guard, and that should be enough to break them. We do use the Melkoth Mystifying Miasma just to kind of give a little bit more negative leadership to them. Even though it doesn't hit their leadership, the damage still will. So we break the Grumbling Guard, and at this point, it's basically just Gromby versus the world. So we have a ton of Marauders, we have some Famir. You know, Wulfric is going to be going around just making sure the Dwarves don't get any reinforcements, because my troops that are fighting here, these Marauders, they're all relatively low leadership, even though they do have the Rage, which helps them, but it's still going to be a little bit dicey if I took a rear charge from Dwarven forces. So this one Ice Wolf Chariot coming into the clutch here, just making sure nothing can come back. I then use the Hunter of Champions to make Grombrindle a little bit squishier, down to 60 armor, actually. Wow, that is and now he's back up to 90 because his armor was sundered there, But yeah, from here, we're just kind of trying to polish off Grombrindle the White Dwarf. Wulfric is just going to be riding around, hunting these Dwarf Warriors, and just a wild fight, guys. I think I still do have the Enfeebling Foe as well, which is going to help finish off Gromby, and my apologies, my computer is trying to be a spaceship. It's very, very, very hot in here, but from there, we just polish off Grombrindle with the Enfeebling Foe and, you know, all those other variables, and that's going to be pretty much all she wrote. So as far as the armies go, it looks like Wulfric definitely did pretty good. He's rocking 112 kills, so Seafang in conjunction with his Chariot play was able to do some pretty good work against the Dwarves. He had a lot of good targets. The Miners with blasting charges, the Dwarf Warriors, a lot of those troops didn't have charge defense, so he was able to really get in there and get a lot of kills from those guys, and I think that's kind of the ideal way to go. And my Norsca guide is actually going to be done in a day or two. It should be up like by this weekend, maybe like Saturday or Sunday. Just doing some final editing now, but this is the build that I actually use against Dwarves for the most part, and I feel like it's relatively safe. Champions did very well, 110, 109, 52, 87. I mean, definitely paying their dues. We also have the Marauder Hunters, which you guys saw, like, normally those Norgomlings Ironbreakers are like, damn it, they're still at like 90 models. Why are they not taking any damage like 10 minutes into the game? But I really felt like the Hunters were able to do a very, very good job. Javelins helped pick off Slayers, as well as the Altar's Raiders, gave us some utility. The Ice Wolf Chariots were really good. I was sloppy with them, though. They kind of got caught up in the back line, and I don't know why they couldn't get away. I think it was partially because, I don't know if Grombrindle did it, but he might have used a smoke bomb in the back line, which I think was the cause. But yeah, the Miststalkers were the one thing I was a little bit disappointed with, but I still think they're a worthy pick. I think they should just be used in like a flanking maneuver maybe in this matchup. So have them collapse on some like Miners or Dwarf Warriors on the flank, and then from there they can really create some trouble. So yeah, for my opponent's army, Grombrindle definitely always a terror in the night, but I think going a little bit cheaper, you can just get like Ungrim Iron Fist for like almost like 600 gold cheaper, and he does something pretty similar. But yeah, I like the army. Flame Cannon did some work, and it was a very intense battle for sure. So very well played to my opponent, the Cavalry Professor. Look forward to running into again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing Norsca in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.